Think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts, Damien Vogt and Catherine Bramkamp.
Hey, this is episode 172 of the Newbie Writers Podcast, and we're here because last week, apparently it's a bit hard to work out your time zone in your own country. So
I absolutely did everything I could to say words like Pacific, West Coast. I don't know. Yeah, we had a guest on the East Coast, and I didn't realize she was on the East Coast. Otherwise, I would have helped her with a graph. And she thought that Pacific time was universal across our country. I said, no, that was only in China in 1942. So no.
I was gonna say that's such an American thing. What were the centers of the universe? Thing. Oh, right.
It was an American thing to change the times. I think we were one of the first to figure that out, to manage the train schedules. So we're the ones that made it all hard for everybody.
Because you can't just toe the line, can you?
Mm-hmm. No, not what we do. Sorry.
Right. That's right. We've got a guest coming up from, is it Ireland? It's going to be midnight her time. Cool.
And she's all over that. She's like, fine, I'm awake. I'm thinking, okay, fine, we'll call.
Great. It's 8:10 here on a Saturday morning, and I'm barely awake, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, you're a good sport for doing it in the morning. And, of course, it's for our guests today, Elizabeth Perlman and myself. It's 3:40 in the afternoon on a Friday, so we're like, we're done.
That's drinking time.
Done. We're drink now. It'll be great. That's what I like about our podcast. It's the end of the day.
Still think we should do a drunk show one day. Anyway, we've got Elizabeth Perlman on. Good afternoon to you.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
We'll change that real quick. So.
Okay.
Jeez. Now, what are we going to talk about?
Well, Elizabeth has an interesting project that she has created, I believe, and supports, and it's called the Intuitive Writing Project. And when I heard about that, when I met Elizabeth the day of the book, I thought, this is really interesting. I want to learn more. So that's because I get to book guests that do interesting things that I want to hear about. Here she is.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Right. Yes. The Intuitive Writing Project, I did, I came up with it. Actually, I came up with it when I was in high school myself. I had the idea. But of course it's what I wanted and what I wished existed, but it didn't exist. And I did mention it to a couple people. I have a distinct memory of people telling me it was not a great idea. So I kind of dropped it and went about my life and pursued another career. And then finally, just many forces came into play. We can get into that later. But ultimately, I decided it's now or never. If I don't do this, I'll never have any peace. And this is something I'm so passionate about. So I made it happen.
That's interesting. Yeah. And I do want to come back to the idea of, you have this great idea and then the naysayers, because that's just amazing to me. So tell us about, so that we have a frame of reference, tell us about what the project is.
What it is. Yes. So it's a nonprofit. It's an educational nonprofit. That was very important to me, that it would be a nonprofit organization, which for international listeners in America, the nonprofit world basically means that you can, all the profits that come into the organization go back into the organization, but it also means that people can donate large sums of money to the organization and write them off as on their taxes. And it means that we can offer scholarships to girls from any income level so that we never have to turn anyone away because of price. So that was really important to me because I want to serve everyone. But what we do, we have a writing-based empowerment program for teenage girls. So we use writing, since you're all writers here, everyone appreciates the power of writing as a way to come to understand ourselves and express ourselves and find our voice. I feel like writing is the way in. And so we use writing as the way the girls connect to their truest selves and figure out who they are and who they want to be through writing. And then there's a curriculum piece that's an education piece. Every time we meet, about 30 minutes is learning something about themselves, different effective communication, learning about media literacy and body image, things that are really relevant for girls. And then they process it and come to their own, develop their own understanding of themselves through writing, which is it's basically 2 hours of writing in every class.
Oh, very cool. That sounds wonderful. Did you get a lot of, were girls lined up to do this initially, or did it take a while to convince, your audience that this would be a really swell way to spend 2 hours?
We're still, it's so funny. We have the people who immediately get it and sign up and love it. I have girls that tell me this is the best thing that ever happened to them. It's their favorite part of the week. When they finish the curriculum, they've told me they feel 100% happier, 100% more confident. They actually want to continue. So then we've created subsequent classes so that they can continue being in the program. So there's that part. And then there's the people who do not understand why this has any value. And it's, I've just kind of accepted it's, the thing with writing is it's not everybody loves writing. You either love it.
Really?
Or you don't. So it's
so surprised to hear.
No, I know. So it's really me accepting that this is a program for girls who love to write. If you love writing, this will change your life. And if you don't love writing, there's a million other things that will change your life that are out there, and they're amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
So quick question. Have you ever had any boys try and sign up?
So that's a great question. I knew from the very beginning, I've always had it in my mind, we need a equivalent program for boys. We don't have it yet, but we are actually, I'm working with a man right now who is a high school English teacher, and he and I are starting to develop a parallel program for boys because they need it just as much as, boys who love to write need it as much as girls who love to write, but they have different issues and different struggles and different challenges. And so they need a different spin. Also, our stuff is very, there's a lot of pink. We have our space the walls are literally magenta pink. And we have a lot of girly things. So when we do the boys program, it will be a little bit more masculine, but that's coming. That'll probably be a year from now.
Where do you draw the line though? Do you then do a transgender intuitive writing project too?
Yes. No, and it's true. This is a huge issue, and I feel so old sometimes because I grew up not knowing about transgender, and the kids educate me. So basically, however you identify, if you identify as a woman, this is a program for you. For when we have the boys program, then if you identify as a boy, then that would be the program. But it wouldn't be, if somebody identifies as a boy, this probably wouldn't be a good fit because we're talking about body image and, coming to terms with, realizing our beauty beyond the social, what, society says is beautiful. We're redefining what is beautiful. Lots very girl specific problems. So, it would probably only resonate for girls. Right.
As long as you don't talk about Miley Cyrus, it gets a tick.
Yes. Well, we do talk about her in discussions about what kind of message is she communicating, and what kind of message do you yourself as a young woman want to communicate to the world? How do you want to be known? How do you want to be seen? Is this how you want to be seen, the way Miley Cyrus is seen? And it's pretty much universally, everyone says they do not want to be seen like Miley Cyrus.
Oh, that's very comforting. Thank you.
Yes.
So is this sort of part of schools? Like, are you in schools, or is it a separate thing that, it's just an extracurricular thing that kids contact you and say, I'd like to do this sort of outside of my schooling?
I would love for it to be part of schools, because really it is what's happened in schools now. And this is something we grapple with. I'm sure all writers deal with this, is that they've kind of taken the art out of language arts. It's become very technical and left brain. And kids are starting to hate writing because of the way it's taught in school. It's takes all the expressiveness out of it. So I would love someday for this kind of expressive writing to be brought back into the schools, and for this program to be integrated into the school day. But as it is, everyone is very focused on, taking tests and getting really high test scores. So this doesn't fit in with the curriculum at the moment. So it's an extracurricular activity, which means we primarily work with girls after school and weekends.
Oh, okay.
And that's tricky because they often don't have time because they're so busy studying for tests.
Okay, good point.
How do you find people though? Do you approach the schools in the area and say, look, we've got this project. If anyone's interested, email us, ring us, that sort of stuff.
Yes. So we have this lovely, I call it an educational boutique in Orinda, California. It's a really sweet, safe, lovely little town not far from where I live. And so anybody who walks by sees us. That's a great natural inbuilt advertising. But mainly what we do is we form connections with teachers in the high schools and teachers who understand and appreciate what we're doing, and they will help recommend students. And then we always offer a free program on a regular basis. We offer free programs for girls to come and just experience it and see if they like it. And then if they like it, they can enroll.
So have you ever had a parent contact you and say, look, I think this would be good for my daughter because she's a pain in the neck and it'll straighten her out, and they sort of get forced to go?
Yes. I haven't had that exact sentence, but that would be, but that's sometimes, yeah. A lot of times it's parents who are concerned that their girls don't like writing and that they wish they would like it more. And so they come to me and they want me to instill a great love of writing in the girls, which I do endeavor to do. We do try to make it fun. You know, you take all the pressure off. It doesn't matter. You actually write in a notebook, which is very old school, instead of writing on a laptop. There's something, as you know, as a writer, there's something very primal about when you have that pen in your hand, and moving the pen across the page tends to draw stuff out of your brain that you might not otherwise have drawn out. And it doesn't matter if you spell everything wrong. So we keep it really fun and playful. And I do think that some girls who come to us who didn't initially like writing, maybe even hate it less. But I will say that ultimately it's like preferences in food, or it's like any kind of preference. If you prefer to bike or rollerblade or skate or swim, I don't know that you can ever take somebody who hates writing and make them absolutely love it, but you can make it a more pleasant experience and maybe make them feel more open to exploring it.
So do you force them? Yeah. Do you force them to leave their mobile phones then at the door?
Yes.
Get off Facebook.
Yes, you have to. Everyone has to leave their phones in a basket at the door and turn them off. It's yes, it's such
that alone.
It took a while to learn that lesson. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, that alone. Now, how interesting. Now, do you have any stories about girls who, they came into this and you're probably enthusiastic. So, we'll just assume that, because I would have loved this kind of program because I've been a writer all my life. So I would have been all over this. Do they have you experienced any kind of, breakthroughs, or have the girls found, oh, I'm a poet, or, oh, I'm really good at essays. How great is this? And they've had some success.
Yeah.
With what they've created.
Yes, it's been amazing to see. And, when I was in high school, I wrote all the time. It kept me jumping off the roof. It was my sanity, but I never shared it with anyone. And so I never knew if I was any good. It was just what I needed to do. And so what's magical about this is we write to prompts. So we use this, I'm going to answer your question. I'm sorry, this is the long way around, but we use this method called the Amherst writing method, which was developed by an amazing woman named Pat Schneider, who lives in Amherst, Massachusetts. And it's a completely non-judgmental, nurturing, supportive form of writing. So you write to a prompt. I mean, a prompt could be anything like "read." That is the prompt. Or you start a sentence that, what I want to say is da 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 da.
Right.
Whatever the prompt
Goldberg.
is.
Yeah. What I really want to say is, yeah.
Exactly. And then they write for about 20 minutes for each prompt. And when we finish, we share it out loud. We read the writing out loud. And the hardest part is the first time. We always have to create that safe container and explain that what is shared here stays here. And we also treat whatever we hear as a work of fiction, whether or not if you're talking about you're mad at your mother or something in your life, we're going to listen to it as if you were just writing a story that you created that has nothing to do with your life. And we're going to give only positive feedback. So only share what we loved about it, what resonated to us. So what happens is in the process, to answer your question, is when the girls they're writing, pouring their heart out onto the page, and then they read it out loud, and they have the wisdom and the beauty of what they're saying mirrored back to them by their peers who are saying things like, who are crying or laughing or saying, oh my God, I feel the same way, or that was amazing how you said that. They start to realize how talented they are and how their words matter and how their stories matter. And so we've had several girls who came to us who were just interested in writing and didn't particularly think they had any talent. And they have subsequently, through the course of being with us for actually over a year now, they've realized that one of them has claimed the fact that she is a poet, and she goes to slam poetry competitions and has won, and just has told me she knows this is her calling to be a poet, and she never would have guessed it. She never would have believed she had that ability if she hadn't had not just me saying it, but her peers saying it.
That's wonderful. What a win. That's fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure you're very pleased about that. That's marvelous when they get the confidence at such a young age, that can change the whole course of what you do with your life, how you feel about what you do with your life. It's very powerful. That's exciting.
Yes, it is. And there's that great quote by T.S. Eliot that he says, we do not believe in ourselves until somebody, I'm not butchering it, but basically until somebody shows us we're worthy of their belief. Because I think we're just, we're human. We see ourselves through other people's eyes. And as adults, ultimately, we have to learn how to see ourselves through our own eyes. But when you're young, to have someone mirror back your talent and say, you've got something important to say. Yeah, I think it changes everything. And yeah, I wish I'd had it. I would have started this organization a lot sooner if I had believed in myself.
So tell me about that. Tell us about, you had this great idea when you were young, and, nowadays, at least I hope that we were better at supporting our children, so that they say, oh, I think I'm going to invent a new way that diabetics can measure their blood, and I'm just going to do it on this Lego, machine. And the parents are like, let's go, we'll do a Kickstarter campaign for you. And, they're much more supportive. So, tell me about your experience and what happened.
Yeah, well, I do see that it's so abundant, so much abundant support nowadays. Kids still need a ton. We can't. I truly believe you can never give anyone too much support. And it's so fascinating to see the difference between their generation and like my generation growing up, which was just I'm Generation X, and it was more. It was certainly more supported than my parents, my mother said she was just told, you become a nurse, a secretary, or you get married. That's it. Yeah. Those are your own options.
Yeah, so my mother's generation too. Yeah.
Yes. We're leaping ahead, but when I was going through school, my parents, through no fault of their own, just because of the world that they've been exposed to at the time, thought that writing was not a practical career, and that it was.
Oh, did they talk to my parents?
Yes. I think there was a message. There was a notice that was going around. Don't let your children get into writing.
Don't grow up to be cowboys or writers. Apparently, that was too. My God.
Exactly. So I always felt like writing was like my weird little habit that I had to keep hidden, and I couldn't do anything with it, and I had to do something else. Mm-hmm. So I also didn't necessarily think I was a great writer, because it was just like, you can write, but find something different to make money.
Find a real job while you're at it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I had no belief in myself in writing, and the idea for this was just a pipe dream that seemed impossible and unrealistic. So I actually went into advertising because my father, thank God, is very creative, and I think he probably would have loved to have been in advertising. And so he said, this is a field where you can be creative, because he knew that I was an idiot at pretty much every other subject.
Right.
So he thought, how do we
Advertising's perfect then.
better? Exactly. I was really bad at anything left brain. I just feel like I'm a walking idiot. So so that was a creative area where I could function sort of, and I did function sort of. But the irony is that even advertising is very strategic and left brain, and I wasn't competitive enough. I didn't care about selling toothpaste. My heart wasn't in it. But I kept
start to get up in the morning when that's what it is. Like, oh
yeah. And it's pretty brutal. The pace is pretty intense.
Yeah.
And now, I think it's even worse now in the last 5 years. If you don't work 16 hours a day, you obviously don't care. It's really
that's hard.
brutal. So what happened, the blessing that comes out of the crisis, the opportunity that comes out of crisis is when the economy crashed in 2008. That was when all the work dried up, and I was sort of limping along from one freelance job to the next with like 3 to 6 months in between jobs, and it was getting really bad. And finally, it was either I was going to have to go live with my parents in the basement, or I had to go back to school.
That's motivating.
That's exactly. So I decided I'd always wanted to get a master's degree. It's just something, probably because I'd never felt very smart. So this was just something that I always wanted to do. And thank God we have such a great loan system that I was able to get educational loans. And I studied something so fascinating. My parents dying when they heard what I was doing. But I studied at John F. Kennedy, where I met you, Catherine, actually.
Yeah.
The conference. They have amazing programs there, really different kinds of things. And they had this amazing program called Transformative Art. And it is the study of how the arts that we're all creative, and through the expressive arts we find our own answers and basically are able to live more authentic lives through art, and how you can create and facilitate creative experiences for people, so that whether it's dance or music or painting or drawing or writing, how you can facilitate experiences for people to find their own answers and live better lives.
So did you take?
So I should take that. That sounds great.
Did you take one of Catherine's classes?
What? No, I didn't even know. It was so funny. And the program was so visionary that it no longer exists.
No.
Damn. Because it sounds so cool. That sounds so cool.
No, I just want to know if one of your tortured sentences ended up in our show. That's all.
Oh, because it could.
Because we have a thing.
I teach a core. She was taking the master's program, and I teach the undergraduate, one of the undergraduate core classes.
Right.
Everybody has to take me, is what it comes down to.
Right. So you teach the special ones.
Yeah, I do. I teach the special ones. You know, they're pretty JFK. The students are pretty smart. I mean, that's why I sometimes go through phases where there's just a dearth of good tortured sentences because everybody's writing decently. It's just terrible. Know what to do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it's so funny because JFK I just love it. It's an amazing school. But what happened recently is it was bought out by a corporation. I can't even remember the name of it, which is probably a good thing. I shouldn't say it. But they are trying to make it a little bit, I think, more practical programs. Like transformative art. What the heck is that?
Practical? Really? Well, a lot of it is that they're trying to stay ahead of, and they're right. They're trying to stay ahead of this new mandate where there's so many private schools and there's so many student loans going to students who are promised a certain level of competency and job guarantee, and their schools aren't following through. So there's some real problems. So I can see why JFK would want to realign themselves a little bit so that they didn't get crushed. So they didn't have everything pulled out from underneath them. So I can understand that. At the same time, and we can have a whole show on this, there's a big art. I have still a real love of the arts, and there's more and more arguments for those liberal arts majors who are flexible, who can make connections that are different. The companies are still looking for that kind of the way that mind works. It doesn't all have to be science and practical.
But hang on. Yeah. You both sort of made a comment about just because you go to university doesn't guarantee you a job.
Right.
What's the deal with that? You said that, some people expect a level of competency.
You're absolutely right. So when I graduated from the UC system, from the University of California, no one ever in the 4 years that I did my degree ever said, oh, and by the way, you're going to get a job. So what's happening is that these smaller universities like JFK or there's a Wyotech series where this school would say, go to our university, pay all this money. They were very expensive. Pay all this money and learn how to take care of cars, learn how to be, a paralegal, whatever their specialty was. And the whole premise was that you will get a job after you go to our school. So you see, that's the difference. No, if I went for liberal arts, no, of course you're not going to, quote, get a job. That's not why you're doing it in the first place. But if that's how it's advertised to you, then that's what the crackdown is.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it is definitely, I will say the journey from my degree to creating this organization was completely self-initiated, and I definitely had some frustration at the beginning, like, why didn't I learn how to start an organization in grad school? That should have been the first thing they taught me. But I did. It's interesting. JFK also had a program in entrepreneurial leadership, which is an amazing program started by a man named Dr. Raoul Dejou, and it's still there. It's still at John F. Kennedy. And so when I was in the program, that was when I realized all the pieces came together, and I realized I'm going to fulfill my vision in this way. And I had a very clear idea of how to do it, but I had no business savvy. So I took this class. It was actually a 6-month program on how to start a business. And I'm still trying to figure out, business is not my strength. So I'm continually learning about that piece. I think that maybe if my program had a little bit more business training, because ultimately to make it applicable and practical in the real world, you need to know how to run a business, at least do marketing.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about business. I'm having a day off today.
Okay, yes. Done.
With the writing project, though, have you had any of the students they've written something so amazing, you've said to them or their parents, I think this should be published. We should look at going down that road.
Yes. And it's interesting because the more they write, the stronger their writing gets. Every week I feel like this is the best thing you've ever written. And then the next week they write something even stronger. So what we're starting to do now is collect their work into 20 pieces, or if they have a long piece, then one big piece, and get it self-published.
Excellent.
Because and then we'll start letting the girls sell their work and go through that, then we'll have to bring you in, Catherine, and talk with them about being publishers, publishing your own work and marketing it. Because that's a whole nother world. But I do tell them, like, their work is so powerful, and they don't usually want to share it with their parents, but they do want to share it with their peers. And I tell them how other girls need to hear. The most personal stuff we write is the most universal. So if somebody's writing about some painful thing that they overcame, other girls need to hear it. And they do know that. And so we are, this is the next phase, is to help them get published.
Have you ever had
it? Fun. I'd love to help you with that, because that
would be great. Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever had it where someone has written something and they've read it out and you've sort of gone, hang on, that sounds like something nasty is happening in their personal space. I should probably go and talk to them about it.
Yes, that is a huge, I'm waiting. I've been anticipating that from the beginning. And so far we haven't had any big red flags yet, but it is something that I was trained in the Amherst writing method, and they talk about it's similar to any adult who's the rule with an adult working with a young person is if somebody shares something in confidence and you're concerned that their safety is threatened, you are empowered to share it with a counselor or somebody else that could help them. So fortunately, I haven't had this yet, but as we branch into different socioeconomic groups, I'm pretty sure it's going to come up a lot. And then we're going to need to have good connections to different social services, because there's a lot of girls grappling with really horrific situations in just everyday life. And I know it's going to come out in the writing, of course.
Yeah. What about, have you considered approaching, well, I don't know what you'd call it over there, but like youth detention centers, like youth prisons? Because I know you'd have them. You've got them.
Yes. So I have to say, this is a plug for a movie that was just made by a woman named Jennifer Seibel Newsom. She is funnily enough, she's the wife of the Lieutenant Governor of California, Gavin Newsom. She's an amazing filmmaker. She made a film 2 years ago called Misrepresentation, about how girls especially, are represented in the media. And then she just came out with a new film that's amazing. And I just had it, I made sure that it was shown in our local high school, called The Mask You Live In. And it's talking about the pressure that boys are under to basically repress anything sensitive or gentle or soft, anything, quote, feminine, and how it's creating robots and criminals. You know, guys are sad and they're not allowed to be sad, so they have to lash out in anger or violence. And so mainly, like, in terms of youth detention centers, it's usually there's just stockpiling these young guys that don't have any outlet for their feelings because they're not allowed to have feelings. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about. I feel pretty strongly about when we develop the boys program. I do want to go into those detention centers and places where boys have just been, I feel like they're militarized. You know, they can't talk, so they have to fight and they have to have guns, and it's crazy. So I feel like it could be really helpful for them, but it would be a man that would go in. I don't feel like I myself would be inspiring. I think they need to see a strong, gentle, loving man.
I mean, they do have girls in there as well. My business works in one of the detention centers here, and it was a big eye opener when we went into a room and it was covered wall to wall with some of the most amazing art I've ever seen. You know, when you see something, like, I don't get into art that much, but holy crap, you know, that hand drawing looks real, or that sculpture someone's done is just incredible. And I asked the teacher there, I said to her, who did these? And she goes, oh, well, that one was done by our 13-year-old, blah, blah, blah. And this one was done by... And both my contractor and I looked at her and just shook our head. And I said, well, why are they in here? Yeah. Why are they not doing something like, why isn't this stuff out there for people like me in the public to see? And she goes, well, you know, they have troubled lives and then they stab their friend and they're in here. Like, yeah.
Gosh, yeah. Well, that's beautiful that you're part of that. I know that I've seen things before. I feel like maybe it was another documentary where someone did art with teens in a detention center, and then they had an art gallery show their work, and the kids got to go and see their work out in public with real everyday people looking at it and wanting to buy it. And the kids actually got profits from their work. Yeah, I think the Army, having studied transformative art, I have to say all of the arts are so needed. I mean, it's not just, of course, we love writing. I can't live without writing, but painting, drawing, theater, drama can be really powerful for kids because it's much more physical. And sometimes kids, especially if they have ADD, it's really hard to sit still and write. So if you can act it out physically, it's really powerful. Dance. There's so many modalities that are so needed. I just feel like we need a revolution of art bringing art back in. And not to like try to be famous artists, just to express ourselves.
Yeah. Well, we've also let, in the last probably good 40 years, we've allowed art to be co-opted by professionals. And so instead of being talented amateurs, if you're not a professional actor, you probably shouldn't act. You just want to leave it to the professionals. If you're not selling, thousands and thousands of books, then you shouldn't be a writer. And we've lost the idea, and maybe this is something we need to come back to. We've lost the idea where you can be the poet and be very good at it, but no, you're not going to make a whole lot of money. And we need to stop monetizing it, and we need to allow everybody to participate. And I'm seeing that, which is good. We just need it to make it more, make it more and more prevalent.
Yes. One of my, that's actually the underpinning of this whole program. And of course, what I studied in school is that, and it's a quote from, this is what I teach my girls, from Pat Schneider herself. She says, everyone is born with their own creative genius. And that means get rid of that hierarchy. Like Shakespeare's at the top and all the schleps are at the bottom. That's
Right.
it's nonsense. That's old school.
We're
all creative geniuses in our own way. And it's not, like you said, it's not about monetizing it or proving somebody's better than or less than.
Yeah.
All of our stories have equal value. All of us have equal value, and we all have a unique way of expressing our unique voice. And that's it's the hardest thing to get the girls over at the beginning, because everyone feels like I'm not amazing. Everyone thinks that they're not the most talented person and therefore shouldn't be writing at all. And that's not true. Everybody's got something to say.
Yeah. There you go.
Right.
So there, but it comes up. I mean, it's that inner critic. I mean, when I sit down to write, sometimes I'll think, oh my gosh, this is 5 million people have already written about this topic. What am I doing writing about it? But of course, 5 million people have already written about this topic, but nobody has the exact combination of experiences and background, you know, the fingerprint. It's like the fingerprint. We all are as unique as a fingerprint, even though there's 20 billion fingerprints, everyone is slightly different. And that's what everyone has a strong, unique voice, and every voice is needed. That's what we talk about.
I love that. That's great.
So how many students do you have in any one class? Like, do you try and put a cap on it so you're not overwhelmed? You've got like 50 people sitting there.
Well, and it's because we do the sharing where, you know, you have to at least 20 minutes of writing per prompt, and then everybody reading their writing out loud and getting feedback. So in order for everyone to get equal airtime, we keep classes at 6, between 3 and 6 girls, no more than 6. Okay. So you really get personalized. I want every girl, because I've definitely had that experience when I was younger, and when I was in big classrooms, I was always the one that I felt like I would slip through the cracks because I didn't want to be disruptive. I felt like other people had more to say than I had to say, so I just would shut up and not say anything. And there's something that I read once, is that for girls and women, we don't feel like we belong in a space, in a situation, until we hear our own voice. And then that experience of hearing our own voice makes us feel connected to it. So I really want every girl to have that time to really get to express herself verbally.
And claim the space. That's wonderful.
So does that push out then when people can get in? So if you've got like 30 kids that want to be part of it, you know, well, I can only take 6 on the weekend, and I can only take 3 on Thursday night. Your daughter will can only get in 2.5 months' time. Does that put people off?
You've done the math in your head, yes. And this is something that I haven't, typical of me, because I can't do the math. Like, I never figured this out ahead of time, that like, oh, there's only so many people that I can actually serve. Fortunately, at the moment, we have a low enough enrollment that I myself can handle. We have 2 classes Saturday, 2 classes on Sunday, and I can manage the whole thing. But as soon as we have more classes, we'll have to hire people. And have more facilities. Yeah.
That's a tough thing. And that's what I'm going through, like with my business at the moment, where I'm having to tell good clients that I've had for 3 years, sorry, you need to wait 3 months before we can get out there. What? It's a tough one.
Because you're doing well, and there you go.
Yeah. So there's, that's why I sort of asked, how do you sort of balance that? Because I've got no clue, clearly.
I know. Well, this is where the business piece comes in. There's we're at this point where we're almost at capacity, not quite. But at some point, we're going to have to ramp up. And I don't understand the business of growing a business. I have no idea how to do it. I'll get back to you on that one.
What you need, this is what I'm hoping someone comes along for me, is someone that's willing to just work for free. You do. You need someone, like, say, you know, if Catherine could give up her time on one afternoon, like on a Thursday every so often, to ease that load and do something like that.
And that's a lot of, you're right, because that's what you need to start out with, is to do an outreach into like writing groups. See, I know some of the business, and say, hey, you know, would you be willing to run a class of these girls, for the year. You want some consistency, one afternoon a week, and would that work for you? And I can give you some ideas for that so that you could expand and do it on a volunteer basis to start out with.
Right. Because that is the piece this is definitely not a lucrative business.
Really?
Understatement. So that's the challenge, is that I, barely paying myself. So we do need,
I can see.
We'll talk later.
I can see why marketing didn't work out for you. Like if I,
Yes.
what are we going to do as a marketing program? Well, we could tell people you're not very successful. Sure, sign me up. It's funny because intuition is my thing that I'm most passionate about next to the writing piece. The science of intuition is fascinating to me. And it's basically about how we all have this really deep well of knowledge and wisdom inside of us. And how do you access it? And when you do access it, how do you trust it? Because it tends to run counter to what your rational mind is telling you, which is very confusing. And that's where writing comes in, is you write I feel like when we're writing, I'm sure you've experienced this. It's like you consciously would have never thought of the things that come out on the page, but it comes through your intuition, your higher self, your bigger self. And that's something about, I feel like writing is like this has this interesting plug into your psyche. It pulls things out. But so intuition, in theory, can be applied to everything, including business. And it's fascinating to me how I have no trouble with accessing my intuition when it comes to emotions or relationships or writing, total clear channel. But when it comes to running a business, where in theory I should be able to access some intuition about it. Well,
but that's where my block.
I think you need to have that intuition. I mean, that's a good point, to have that intuition, for business. It has to be what you do. So, my husband is, he's a businessman. He's a COO of a manufacturing company. He has great business intuition because that's what he does. So you and I would have great intuition about, writing and creativity because that's what we do. Just like, Damien can probably walk in and say, oh, well, you need to have, this, and this before I can plug in that, and that. And you can just do it just by looking at it because you've done it so much. It's what you know. And then you can just say, no, I got a bad feeling about this right before a big screen crashes down. See, but no,
normally, I wouldn't be that polite because I'd walk in and go, so what salesman saw you coming? Well, look, I've just said, Emma Walker from Exceptional Editing and Proofing sent me a message through, we're in the Hangouts, in the Google Hangouts, and she says that real world business skills should start in high school, which I agree. And she said, because people enter the world with absolutely no idea how to survive in the real world.
Yeah.
Yes. That's, what
they can
blows
take
my
tests.
mind. Yes, they can take tests, which you never have as an adult. The things that I wish I learned in high school: business, number one, how to run a business; number two, how to pay taxes. Like, everyone has to pay taxes by law, and they're so complicated. And then anything to do with banking and investing money. All those three things. Oh, and car repair. I could have benefited from that.
Yeah, I'm useless with cars.
I would have loved all of that. And they don't, because whole other conversation, but we have shifted thinking that, we want to have all this college prep and, everybody should know how to do, advanced mathematics. That if you talk to really advanced mathematicians, they'd laugh at you because I'll say, well, isn't calculus? No. They said that's not even the start of it. There's more to math than that.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I would say that the only thing that I learned in high school that I'm still using to this day is how to type.
Thank you. That was my big skill.
Yes.
Really?
But like, the math that I use today is what I learned in grade school.
Yeah.
And same with like spelling, everything I learned in grade school, I'm still definitely using as an adult. But the things I learned in high school, typing, yes, that was useful.
Typing was awesome.
See, I don't remember
I went
any
to
of
a
that.
whole section of the school I'd never been to. I'm wondering, right? It was in the home ec wing and I'm wandering around like, wow, I was a senior in high school. I've never been here. So, wow, this is amazing.
I remember
Because
when
I could have learned to cook. That would have been really helpful too, but that went right by me.
Yeah, and it still does.
Yeah, it does.
I remember when we first got those Macintosh computers that you could type and it would read it out to you.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's a really old sort of rudimentary thing. And I don't know, I went to an all-boys school, so all you could hear through that computer class was genital terms. Because it's interesting hearing, you know, Stephen Hawking basically say, you know, just constantly. So, yeah. Anyway.
Do you feel like it's the same in Australia right now, that same kind of intense pressure on teens to do well on tests and get into the right schools? Or is it, is there, do you have more allowance for art?
Yes and no. We do. You know, there's still in schools, because I work in schools, there's always the art programs and that sort of thing. And some of them get quite creative. They recognize that technology is a big thing. So now there's technology classes where they build robots and they do stuff like that. But from the testing side of things, yeah, it's a big push. We have a thing called NAPLAN testing where they're testing kids from grade 3 on. It's a big national testing thing to work out the benchmarks of how, you know, they call it the 3 R's, which is wrong because, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Clearly, you failed at the third one. And
what kind of message are we sending? With
exactly.
That comment?
So there's a big stress because a lot of the little kids haven't experienced that stress of going, well, hang on, this is a big test. And they do. They take a big chunk out of their day to sit down and read. They do writing, that sort of stuff. So I think on that ground, it's a little bit unfair. You shouldn't have a 7-year-old awake all night stressing because they've got a test, a national test to do tomorrow, because apparently all the results get posted up on the web and then parents can see, well, that school failed their NAPLAN testing, so I'm not going to send my student there. So there's a pressure.
Okay, you guys are doing the same misguided programs that we are.
See, we've a question comes from Emma said that her year 3 boy just spent 3 days doing the NAPLAN tests. An 8-year-old, and 8-year-olds are really stressed to the point of being sick. And we've heard of things of schools telling, you know, the kids that are the lowest performers not to come in. On the day.
They do that. And in fact, we've gone through a number of different versions of tests, because every time someone comes up with a new test, then that large company gets a whole boatload of money to do it. So, you know, I know that there's a whole nother little project going on the side. So we were doing some sort of California test, and I actually called the school. I said, would you like me to keep my non-test taking child home so that your numbers are not, I'll send the smart one in, but you probably don't need the numbers from the other one. No, everybody gets to take the test. I'm like, okay, because he's going to make a smiley face on his Scantron seat because that's what I told him to do.
Well, this actually gets back to your initial question about if we have trouble, you know, how do we find students and we have any trouble? And what we're talking about right now is learning to value right brain expression, which is everything from writing and painting to emotional intelligence and effective communication and all those things. And it's all basically the right brain is everything that makes life worth living. And it's fascinating that we focus so intensely on the left brain, which of course we need it. We'd be a mess if we didn't have our left brain. That's the rational, strategic part of us. We need it, but we give it total dominance and it makes everybody miserable. And then when we try to introduce more right brain activities, people freak out because they're like, wait a minute, you can't measure it. There's no numbers.
There's no numbers.
It's the thing that makes life worth living.
It does. Now, we've got some things we need to carry on with, like prompts and that sort of stuff. Where can people that fall into the age group, is it 14 to 19 and female, is a good start, where can they find you?
Yes. So they can go to our website, which is intuitive. It's 3 words. Everything about me is wordy. So the website is also wordy. The domain name is wordy, but it's 3 words: Intuitive Writing Project. 3 words into one, intuitivewritingproject.org, because we're a nonprofit. And all the information you need is on the website. And also my email is featured throughout the site. I'm the main contact person. So Elizabeth at the intuitive, sorry. We're called The Intuitive Writing Project, but the domain name is intuitivewritingproject.org without a the. So if you just go to our website, you'll learn everything. And then we are exploring ways of running programs via Skype. If we found that there was a group of girls that was not in the East Bay, we could facilitate that. But right now we mainly work with the girls in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
Cool. Well, there you go. What about the Twitter?
Oh, yes, we have Twitter. So I am a little bit technology challenged, but we do have a Facebook page that is the Intuitive Writing Project. You can find us on Facebook, and that connects to our, I'm such an old pioneer type. Technology. Whenever I post to Facebook, it automatically goes to Twitter. So I never deliberately tweet. It just automatically tweets my Facebook. I'm very slow. I'm Amish in my heart. So
I wonder if that's a hashtag, Amish.
Yes. So we do have a Twitter. I'm just looking at it now because I didn't even remember what it was. It's twitter.com/intuitivewp as Intuitive Writing Project.
Well, right. I'm going to look that up now because I'll forget that.
Yes.
All right.
Like I have.
Yeah. So you wouldn't be on the Google Plus then.
No, the probably was not on the Google Plus.
Oh, that's all right. Now, let's do a prompt because you mentioned that you use prompts. Where do you get your prompts from? Do you make them up?
Yes. Prompts are so much fun. It's just everywhere you look, everything becomes a prompt. Everything becomes something that you can ponder, reflect upon. But I will say that something that is a nice, when people are stuck and it's hard to, if you feel like you're not a strong writer or you're just creatively blocked, sometimes the best thing to do is a list, because funnily enough, lists are very left brain, and so that can be weirdly comforting. So you just do a list of everything that you are frustrated about right now. And it's such a great purge.
Cool.
I mean, there's never a time that we don't have 100 things that so you start with that. That would be a really simple one.
Oh, well, there you go. Well,
I like it.
and just quickly, Beth Barani follows you on Twitter. There you go.
There you go. Yay, Beth.
Yay, Beth. All right, this prompt. Are you stuck in your work? Play. Keep toys around just in case, or even a musical instrument. I have a slinky, juggling cubes, and a ukulele. Do you have a ukulele? All of which,
yes, I do.
All of which are quick, easy, imaginative breaks that don't cost any more money, don't involve bourbon, and can be done for just a few minutes. Set up your play. Write what it feels like to play with your toys. Now, if we had an erotica author on it, that'd be a very different prompt.
Yes, that would. And I realized that even as you were saying what it feels like to play with your toys, it's like, okay, that was not a deep comment.
Revise.
It feels great.
I bet. So, I don't know.
That's a great. Did you write that? Is that yours?
Yeah, Catherine comes up with them every week.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
You are welcome to borrow it. You may borrow and steal.
May I retweet you?
Yes, you may retweet.
If you know how. Yes. Now, Catherine comes up with them every week. They're good.
Playing is important. Making it playful. And that frustrated prompt is probably not the most playful thing. But making, when you're really stuck, it's great to write about like why you really don't want to write and why just talk about being stuck. And it's funny and it always leads out of it. Yeah.
Well,
we do that a lot. Just talk about what you hate about writing.
I get little insights into sort of Catherine's world, her brain a little bit with the prompts. It's very interesting. So now I'm picturing her messaging her husband going, "Can you bring a grass skirt home? I think I'm going to play the ukulele."
Some coconuts and more bourbon. That's what I'm saying.
And you know why? I'm playing because I'm stuck at work. Yeah.
He's used to a lot of very interesting requests. It's all right.
Oh, all right.
Okay, honey.
Well, let's do a tortured sentence. Oh.
Next time, don't put the wrong emphasis on the right syllable. Tortured sentences.
Wow, that was a really tortured sentence.
That would come from the tortured writing project, and definitely not a definitely non-profit.
You can start that one.
We have that could go in our book. The Don't Write Like We Talk. I'll do the tortured writing project. That sounds good. I like it. Its own little section, tortured writing. I was just going to do call outs, but I think maybe a whole little list, or tortured, like there's whole book series. It was a dark and stormy night. The worst opening lines of a novel ever, and they collect those up. In fact, I could pull those out. Those would also be really good torture sentences.
Yeah, you should.
Do you know who first wrote that line? It was a dark and stormy night, because whoever did it first was very clever. But then
I don't know. I'll have to find the books, because I think those would be really good tortured sentences. So this one is from a photo caption, and that makes sense. So if you're the photographer for a small paper, that's what you do. You don't necessarily aren't always syntactically adept, and so here's the here's the sentence. Like the family barn, Harold Wright's car is still going strong after 285,000 miles.
wow.
So there's a book called Mr. Strong, like part of the Mr. Men things, and he picks up a barn. Is that what they're talking about? That barn got carried
and ran 285,000 miles with it.
What a ripped barn!
I know.
Hey, barn, show us your guns. Yeah.
Pretty awesome, right?
They got calves that can bench press 100 kilos. Yeah.
Oh. But they don't say how big the barn could. Maybe it's a little 1-inch barn.
No, it's been in the car trunk this whole time.
What I want to know is, it says
There you go.
like the family barn. So does that mean that every American family gets their own barn?
Yes, it does.
Right. So you go to
it's
Walmart.
The American dream.
Yeah.
If you do well on all of your tests, you will get a barn.
So
you get a barn.
You go to Walmart and they're like, "Hey, how can we help you?" No, take me to the barn section. I've just had a family. I've just had a son. Aisle 3. Yeah.
It's only in the superstores though, because the barns take up a lot of space.
And do they come flat packed? So you go to IKEA. You're like, "Where's the barn?"
Right.
Oh, IKEA! IKEA should be listening.
Why?
Idea.
Yes.
Next idea. American barns for everyone.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Comes with a free meatballs package.
Yes.
And
those meatballs are good.
I was tempted to stand out when IKEA first opened here. I had a whole stack of leftover Allen keys from jobs, like a big handful, and just hand them out and go, "Congratulations.
You're going to need this. Because you're going to lose the first one and it's going to bend.
Yeah, and the one they give you is tiny and rubbish. So here's a proper one.
Very and it hurts your hand. I mean, that's the other thing. Anyway, yes, we could go on and on about IKEA. That's another show.
That is another show. Yes.
Okay, let's do a word of the week. Now, this word of the week comes from Elizabeth Perlman, and it's schlup. You schlups.
Oh, yes, and it's schlep. Make sure you get the E in there, not an O, not a schlop, which is a different meaning.
Yes.
Schlep. Yes.
Schlep, because I did it with a U, and that means...
Schlep. Oh, yes.
A schlup is well, don't want to look at related words to schlup, but according to Urban Dictionary, a person that is lazy, a person with minimal motivation, and it's got other terms like schlupping, which I don't want to know what that is.
It sounds vaguely dirty. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll look up schlep. To carry, bring, or otherwise...
Schlep.
To carry, bring, or otherwise transmit something which is difficult to move. Like a barn. It all ties in.
Together. I'm going to come to Australia to see you, and I'm going to schlep my barn.
Right.
There you go.
Does that go in the overhead, or does it? Yeah. No.
Might have to check it. I don't know. That'll be pretty interesting.
We have a real word from Arlene Miller from her Weird and Wonderful Words series, found at bigwords101.com. Very potent. Very potent. Fit for a husband, or marriageable is not a word. Catherine. I'm pretty
I
sure.
did not. I'm just quoting Arlene, who, by the way, has a new book out. Yay, Arlene.
Oh.
No, that's her. Marriageable.
Right.
Wait, you said the word is marriageable. What was the word
No,
you said?
Very
The
potent.
word is viripotent.
Very potent.
Viripotent. 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 I thought that was a wonderfully bizarre word. I mean, that's not even in Jane Austen. And fit for a husband would definitely be a Jane Austen thing.
It's not even on Urban Dictionary, so it's not a real word.
Oh, well, if it's not in the Urban Dictionary.
Because the teens haven't come up with a meaning.
Oh, I just got a list of words to use more often on my Instagram, which we also have an Instagram page. Intuitive Writer is our Instagram page. I'm actually most proud of Instagram because it is the least technical. All you have to do is post a picture. It's very simple. Yeah. And not all of mine are inspirational quotes, but I have this one somebody sent me, words to use more often. Here's some. Oh, my favorite, discombobulate.
Ah, yes. I like discombobulate.
Yeah, that's a great. Or skedaddle.
Yeah, or skedaddle is a good word.
That's very
How
English.
about hullabaloo?
Hullabaloo. Yeah. No.
Those are like little cartoons from the 40s. That use those words. It's very fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think we should bring the 40s style way of speaking.
Because hullabaloo sounds like a cartoon character. Oh, it's a little chunky hullabaloo coming to play.
Yes, it does.
It sounds like a cute little cartoon character. Big eyes, big.
See, I like
Japanese
reading
eyes with a little tiny face. Look, it's hullabaloo.
I like reading those 50s or even 40s and 50s children's books because of the terminology that's in there. Like when they talk about, oh, mother is such a tease. Like, right.
Okay.
Kinky. Papa Bear in his smoking jacket. Yeah.
Have you seen those children's book covers, children's books that were never published, and they're all very, very snarky things like Daddy's drunk and it's all your fault.
No, but there is a very good, I think it's Instagram. I can't remember the person's name, but they post up real books that have been published that have stupid names. And if you ever want to laugh, I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you later. But there was one that had, but you're a horse, and there was a woman kissing a horse. Like, Yeah.
You mentioned that last week.
Yeah,
but you're a horse.
There was also one recently. Apparently, there was a couple that had their wedding, and they had some wedding photos and photos done on the day, and they posted them up on social media. Someone took that photo and put it on an erotic softcore porn book.
Oh,
so,
oh no!
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's called A Gronking to Remember. So I don't know what a gronking is. Yeah.
Oh no!
And this is why we should never worry that what we have to say is not important, because everything has value to somebody. I mean, all of these things are giving us that people have written are giving us such delight right now.
Oh, no.
So somebody, if you write what is true for you, somebody will laugh or cry or be changed by it. Even if some people don't like it, there will be others who will love it.
Right. And there'll also be a large proportion that will just hate it because it's on the internet now.
Exactly.
Is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to, Elizabeth?
Oh my gosh, I'm not prepared.
That's the idea.
That's the point. We never prepare our guests.
So, gosh, there's so many people who have been so tremendously helpful to me. I would say that the two women who have been most instrumental in building this organization up from just a little embryo of an idea. One would be Cynthia Leslie Bull, who is an amazing writer in her own right, and she also leads incredible writing classes for adults. She was my teacher. I learned about the Amherst writing method through her. She coached me. She connected me with so many people when I was getting started. She's amazing. She also does creative coaching. She's great. Actually, I should look up her. Let me look up her website so I can give it to people real quick. And then the other person is Maureen Brown, who is my CFO, because of course, as a nonprofit, you have to have a a board of directors, and I have a CFO and a secretary, and she is that person, and she has been instrumental from the beginning and so wise and intuitive. She doesn't have a website yet, but let me give you Cynthia Leslie Bull. If anyone is ever feeling stuck creatively, or you're an adult and you want an amazing writing class for adults using the Amherst writing method, her website is Cynthia, which is spelled CYNTHIA. This is all one word. Leslie, LESLIE, and her last name is Boll, which is BOLE. CynthiaLeslieBoll.com. She's amazing.
There you go.
Oh,
it's been a pleasure having you on. Catherine, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to?
I'm going to give a shout out to one of my BBFs who is taking me to New York, and that's why you will not hear from me next week. So, thank you, Lester Olmsted Rose, who does consulting work with nonprofits. Oh, there you go.
Oh.
He works with enterprise level nonprofits. He works with the big guys. And to my husband, who is freezing his ass off in Yosemite as we speak because it's cold and rainy.
Oh, it's raining.
Needless to say, I'm not
great.
camping with him, so he deserves a shout out for not making me camp with him, and love it.
Camping.
Oh, bless him.
Who likes camping? Now, I want to give a shout out to Emma Walker, who's in our chat. Thank you for being a part of the show. And also someone called Blaze Spear. That cannot be your real name, surely, sir. If it is, that's an amazing name. You should probably dress up and run around the city streets at night.
With a spear that's like made out of pure gold or
something like that. Yes,
it's a cool name, and clearly, if it is your real name, your parents were drug dealers. No,
or on.
Oh, yes. So thank you for being a part of the show. That'll do it for this week. Next week we have, I think it's Robin Sullivan on, who's a businessman.
Michael Sullivan.
Well,
he's a fantasy author, but his partner and wife, Robin, is going to talk about more like the business of writing. So this one's been about intuitiveness and the art of it. We're going to go over and talk a little bit more about the business next week.
Cool.
Or rather, you get to talk about the business next week.
Certainly do. All right. So until next week.
I'll be listening.
Oh,
I will
awesome.
be listening.
Well, until next week, we'll see you then.
See you then.
I can't do this voice in person because I look like an idiot when I do it. Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.